Have you ever felt like God gave you a clear promise, a vivid picture of your future, only to be met with silence? You know what he said, you saw the vision, but now you're stuck in the waiting room of life, and the fulfillment feels a million miles away. If that's you, you're in good company. In fact, you're walking a path that one of the most foundational figures in faith walked for decades. His name was Abraham, and his story with his wife, Sarah, is a masterclass in what it means to wait on God when everything in you wants to give up or take matters into your own hands. Their journey teaches us a powerful and sometimes difficult lesson. God's promises are inherited through a process, not by taking shortcuts. The waiting isn't a mistake, it's a vital part of the plan. Let's go back to the beginning, to Genesis chapter 12. God speaks to a man named Abram, who we later know as Abraham. The promise is staggering. God tells him, "Leave your country, your people and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing." A great nation? That's a huge promise for a man who has no children. A few chapters later, in Genesis 15, God reaffirms this promise in an even more dramatic way. He takes Abraham outside and says, "Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. So shall your offspring be." The promise was crystal clear. You will have descendants as numerous as the stars. Abraham believed God, and the Bible says it was credited to him as righteousness. He had the promise. The vision was set. But there was one crucial detail missing from God's announcement: the timing. God didn't say, "And this will happen next Tuesday." He just said it would happen. So, Abraham and his wife, Sarah, began to wait. And they waited. And they waited some more. A year passed, then 5, then 10. Still no child. This brings us to the second stage of their journey, the pain of waiting. Imagine the conversations, the whispered hopes, the silent tears. Every month was a reminder of what they didn't have. Genesis 16 shows us what happens when human patience wears thin. Sarah, probably feeling the weight of the cultural shame of barrenness and the ticking of her biological clock, comes up with a plan. A human plan. She tells Abraham to have a child with her servant, Hagar. It was a culturally acceptable solution at the time, a way to help God out and make the promise happen. This is so relatable, isn't it? When the waiting gets long, our first instinct is often to take control. We think, maybe I heard God wrong. Maybe he needs my help. So, we try to force the door open. We make a decision based on logic and desperation rather than faith and patience. And what was the result of their shortcut? It led to Ishmael's birth, but it also introduced immense pain, jealousy, and conflict into their family for generations. Human effort created a complicated situation that was never part of God's perfect plan. Their faith was being tested in the fire of delay, but it wasn't destroyed. It was being refined. The pain of their mistake taught them a valuable lesson about the consequences of running ahead of God. This is where we uncover the third, and perhaps most important, part of the process: long-suffering as preparation. The word long-suffering sounds so old-fashioned, but it simply means having patient endurance. The years of waiting weren't a punishment. They were a divine training ground. God was using the delay to shape Abraham and Sarah's character. Waiting has a way of stripping away our self-reliance. When you've tried everything in your own strength and failed, you have no choice but to become completely dependent on God. The wait built endurance in them. It taught them to keep believing when circumstances screamed the opposite. It cultivated humility, forcing them to admit they couldn't fulfill God's promise on their own. Each passing year, as their bodies grew older and the possibility of having a child naturally became more and more impossible, their faith had to shift from the possible to the impossible. They were learning to trust not in their own ability, but in God's absolute power to do what he says he will do, no matter how crazy it seems. This period of waiting was forging them into the kind of people who could handle the weight of the promise when it finally arrived. God wasn't just preparing the promise for Abraham. He was preparing Abraham for the promise. And then, after 25 long years of waiting, we arrive at Genesis 21. God's timing is finally fulfilled. The Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Notice that phrase, at the very time God had promised. God wasn't late. He was right on time. according to his perfect, sovereign schedule. When Isaac, the child of promise, was born, it wasn't just a happy family moment. It was a thunderous declaration of God's faithfulness. It was proof that what God promises, he completes. The laughter of Sarah, who had once laughed in disbelief, was now the laughter of pure joy. God had turned her doubt into delight. He had done the impossible. So, how do we apply this incredible story to our lives today? Maybe you're waiting for a spouse, for a child, for a career breakthrough, or for a healing that seems to be taking forever. You received a promise, a word from God, a deep sense in your spirit, and now you're in the long, silent middle. Abraham and Sarah's story is your anchor in this season. Your delay is not a denial from God. Your waiting is not wasted time. It is a sacred, intentional process of preparation. God is using this time to build your endurance. He's teaching you humility. He's deepening your dependence on him so that when the promise comes, you'll know without a shadow of a doubt that it was him, and not you, who brought it to pass. He is shaping you into a person who can carry the blessing he has in store for you. Don't fall for the temptation to take a shortcut like they did. Don't try to help God out. Rushing the process only leads to complications and heartache. Trust his timing. Rest in the knowledge that he is working behind the scenes, orchestrating everything for your good and his glory. The wait is hard, I know. It can be painful and filled with questions. But hold on. Your Isaac is coming. The fulfillment of your promise will arrive at the very time God has appointed. And when it does, your joy will be full, and your faith will have a story to tell, a story of a faithful God who never, ever fails. If this message resonated with you today, if you're in that season of waiting and need encouragement to keep going, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel. We're here to explore these truths together, to help you trust God's process, not rush his promise. Remember, your waiting has a purpose. God is still faithful, and his timing is always perfect. Thanks for watching.